1 o'clock. I believe we do have a quorum, right, Jan?
Yes, Chair.
Okay. I would like to call the Board Administration Operations Committee meeting order at 1 p.m. Thank you for joining the Board Administration and Operations Committee meeting today, Wednesday, March 3rd, 2021. Before beginning with today's business, please ensure that you are in quiet environment with a background noise. Please mute your device and to call upon chair or clerk to speak. Let me do that myself. I used it. Okay, John, would you please read the special notice regarding the COVID-19?
Yes. On March 4, 2020, Governor Newsom proclaimed a state of emergency in California as a result of the threat of COVID-19. Public gatherings are to be limited. Further, on March 18, 2020, Governor Newsom temporarily suspended the Brown Act requirements pertaining to telephonic conferencing of local government meetings and the requirement to have at least one physical location available to the public for purposes of attending the meeting. As such, RTA has opted to conduct the March 3, 2021 Administration and Operations Committee meeting via teleconference.
Thank you, John. Let's move to self-introductions for today's meeting. We'll take roll call. With clerk, please take a roll call. John, with you.
Yes.
Take roll call, please.
Alonso Ledesma.
Here.
Jim Steiner.
Here.
Jerry Sinsich.
Here.
Karen Spiegel. Yep. Brian Berkson.
Yes, I'm here.
David Marquez.
Here.
Scott Benton.
Here.
Andy Melendrez.
Here.
Zach Schwank.
I'm here.
Chair, you have a quorum. Members, please remember to remute your devices.
I have joined after my name was called. This is Karen Spiegel.
Yes, I did catch you, Director Spiegel. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. John, would you please, I'm sorry, would you take attendance of RTA?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Larry Rubio.
Here.
Charlie Ramirez.
Here.
Tom Franklin.
Here.
Laura Camacho. Here. Rick Majors.
Here.
Kristen Warsinski. Here. Natalie Zaragoza. Here. Rick Kazarowski.
Here.
Jim Neepkins.
Here.
Yesenia Felix. Here. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, next item, number 3, public comments, non-agenda items. John, would you please read directions for public comments?
Yes. Members of the public may address the board regarding any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. However, no action may be taken on off-agenda items unless authorized by law. Comments shall be limited to matters not listed on the agenda. Members of the public may comment on any matter listed on the agenda at the time that the board considers that matter. Each person's presentation is limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. And Chair Ledesma, I have not received any requests to speak in writing.
Thank you. Is there anyone online that would like to speak on public comments that you know of? Hear none? Okay, hear none more. Public comments portion item listed on the agenda is now closed. Next item, approved minutes of February 3rd, 2021, Administration Operations Committee meeting. Does anyone have any comments? Hear none. Do I have a motion?
Moreno Valley.
Corona.
Moreno Valley and Corona, second. Here, are there any no's? Are there any abstentions?
Yes, Brian Berkson, Moreno Valley, I'll abstain.
Brian, are you abstaining?
Yes, I'm abstaining.
You got that, Chair? I'm sorry, John?
Yes, Chair Ledesma.
Thank you.
Motion.
The motion has passed. Uh, Excuse me, Chair, would you provide outcome of the announcement, please?
That was 8 affirmative and 1 abstention.
Thank you. 8 and 1. Thank you. Next item, item 5, consent calendar. All items consent calendars will be approved by one motion, and there will be no discussion individual items unless board members or members of the public request a specific item to be pulled from the calendar for separate discussion. That's any committee member wishes to pull any items for discussion. Hear none. Does any member of the public wish to pull an item for discussion? Hear none. Does anyone wish to pull item for discussion? Hear none. Let's move to consent calendar. Consent calendar item 5A and 5B are received and filed. So, we have members, we have any chance to view item B and, I'm sorry, A and B? Okay. That's just to receive and file. Next item, approve of program public transportation, modernization, improvement and services enhancement account program, PTMISEA. Fund fiscal year 2015, from the operations maintenance facility construction and the purchase of 7040 food compressor natural gas CNG buses for replacement. And I would like Kristen to do this presentation. I'll wait for I have a question there. Can you please do the presentation? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Ledesma, members of the committee. My name is Kristen Warsinski, and I'm the Director of Planning. The PTMISEA program was created by Proposition B in 2006 to fund an array of transit capital projects and is administered by Caltrans. In the board-approved capital budget for 2016, the last appropriation of PTMISEA funding was programmed for the new centralized operations and maintenance facility, and the full appropriation of $12,302,658 was awarded to partially fund construction of that new project. Funds have been kept in an interest-bearing account with CalTrust that has accumulated over $963,000 in interest as of January 2021. From 2016 to 2018, staff researched and did preliminary due diligence on possible new locations for this new operations and maintenance facility. However, no PTMISEA funding has been spent to date. When the California Air Resource Board, or CARB, passed the Innovative Clean Transit Regulation in December 2018, it became apparent that a transition to zero-emission buses would be a crucial part of the decision-making process for a new facility. So the agency elected to study this transition before moving forward with this project. Also, during the last semi-annual report cycle, Caltrans staff notified RTA that all funds and interest needed to be spent by June 2023, or the funds would be due back to the state. The ZEB rollout plan effort was kicked off in October 2019, and after the year-long study, which was approved in December of 2020, it was identified that there was an approximate increase in capital costs of $76 million over a 20-year period, and that's with no growth for RTA over 2019 service levels. The plan also contained a procurement schedule that recommends that we replace the current CNG fleet prior to purchasing zero-emission buses in order to give the technology a chance to mature and costs to come down. The large increase in forecasted capital costs combined with the decreased demand brought on by the pandemic have led staff to identify that purchasing replacement vehicles would be a better use of this funding. Therefore, staff recommends using the PTMI-SCA funding and interest to help fund a purchase of 70 40-foot CNG buses to replace buses that will meet their useful life based on mileage by December of 2024. The procurement would likely be split into a multi-year option depending on mileage of the current 40-foot fleet, and the PTMI-SCA funds would be used on the initial purchase so that we can meet that deadline of June 2023. An updated resolution authorizing the reprogramming of this funding is required and attached to the staff report. If approved at the Board of Directors meeting, staff will submit a corrective action plan and resolution to Caltrans for approval. And once we get that approval, the competitive bid process for the purchase of CNG buses would start, and that would be managed in a separate staff report and presented for your consideration at a future meeting. Reprogramming of the $12 million in PTMI-SCA funds plus interest will substantially fund the purchase of the 70 40-foot CNG buses when combined with current funds already programmed. The agency has an additional $37,019,076 in federal, state, and local funds programmed for this vehicle purchase. Additional funding to fully fund the 70 CNG buses will be identified in our upcoming fiscal year 2022 short-range transit plan. The recommendation before you is to approve and recommend this item to the full Board of Directors for their consideration as follows. Approve the reprogramming of $13,265,842.88, which is that original $12 million grant plus all the interest earned as of January, as well as any additional interest earned up to the time funds are expended to substantially fund the purchase of the 70 40-foot CNG vehicles for replacement. Authorize the board chair to execute resolution 2021-03 on behalf of the agency, and authorize the chief executive officer or designee to file a corrective action plan requesting the reprogramming of this funding. Mr. Chair, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Christine. Appreciate your presentation. Are there any questions from committee members?
Yes,
Go
Marina Valley.
ahead. Thank you. Karen, I think you were the first one to raise your hand. Go ahead.
Hear me?
Yes, please.
Oh, okay, sorry. There's so much conversation about moving. I know that we're hearing it in Metrolink with the new engines. Is this the, I hate saying the latest and greatest as far as clean mode of transportation with the engines? I certainly want to make sure that if we're going to be making an investment, that we are on the cutting edge, because I know we were talking CNG before, but I don't know if this is the most current and this will be for longevity. And have we researched other opportunities?
Adam, I saw Adam, the Director of Maintenance, popped on. Do you want to answer that, Adam?
Sure. Good afternoon, Chairman De La Desma and committee members. I'm Adam Chavez, the Director of Maintenance. And to answer your question, the engines that will be acquired with that build is actually going to be similar to the near zero engine, which is the latest and greatest is the L9 engines. Excuse me. The engine number escapes me right now, but it is definitely the latest and greatest. It supersedes the engines that we currently have, and that's what we purchased with those 70 engines for buses.
And how long would we anticipate is their life expectancy?
Very similar to what we're having right now. The anticipation is that they will have steel pistons, which I believe they do have. So the longevity is definitely going to supersede that of what we have right now. So we can look forward to a much better built engine.
So it meets AQMD and all the other standards. Actually, does it supersede all those standards? Because we have always looked to be better. And I just want to make sure that we continue our reputation of always being one step ahead of everybody else.
Yes, that is correct. They would have to meet all those standards.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Marina Valley.
David. Yes, go ahead, David.
Thank you, Chair. Don't go away, Adam. This is for you. We just recently approved some repairs, transmission overhauls, quite a bit of money for some buses. And now we're going to go ahead and purchase new buses. let me ask you this first, maybe Christian or you can answer it. What's the lead time once the board of directors approves the purchase on these buses, new buses?
You mean for the delivery of those buses?
Yes.
We would be looking for the first 35 to be prior to the end of fiscal year 23. So we're looking about May, June.
Okay. We just approved the repairs on transmissions for our existing buses. Do we still need to do that? Repair these buses if we're getting these new buses in service?
For those new buses, no. That, of course, they would have their own new powertrains. But what has been approved is to ensure that the buses that we currently have will be able to continue to remain serviceable and remain in service. If any vehicles were to come up in that category where it's going to need a transmission, we would do everything in our power to ensure that it stays in service without actually going the route of having that transmission replaced to save funds.
Okay, so with that being said, we're looking at these older buses. So if it's got an engine replacement, we'll consider that the same method as the transmissions. I mean, are we setting a cost limit since if this gets approved on these older buses for repairs, meaning engines?
Well, the engines that we've also,
Chairman,
I'm sorry.
can I jump in here for a second?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, this is a multi-phased procurement approach. The transmission rebuild that you approved last week, Director Marquez, will apply to buses that we're going to overhaul years out. The first phase of buses that we're going to replace won't have the transmissions rebuilt on them. Those buses will be phased out. We're going to continue to run older buses for some time. So the transmissions are going to be overhauled on buses years out. We're not going to rebuild anything and then get rid of it. So we're going to be diligent with the money and prudent with it. So rest assured, we won't be rebuilding something and then replacing it.
Okay, thank you, Larry. And that was my concern. If we were going to spend a large amount of money in rebuilding these older buses, then phase them out within 6 months to a year. And when I wouldn't think it'd be feasible to spend, that much money in repairing them. So thank you very much, and I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you,
Mr. Chairman, if I could go back to Supervisor Spiegel's question.
Yes.
I'd like to add a little bit more clarification to that.
Go ahead, Larry.
Supervisor, the buses that we're buying, the engines are the latest and greatest natural gas engines. There are two technologies that are out there that are much cleaner than what we're buying. There's the hydrogen bus, which is the path that the board selected during the zero emission bus path that was approved in December, and the other is the electric bus. But that's years out, and that's something the board elected to not pursue in the immediate future. That's why we're advancing at the board's direction the natural gas procurement buses, which is what we are buying. It's the latest and greatest natural gas bus technology that's out there. So I just want to clarify that part. There are those other two engines that are available, but it wasn't felt that they were mature enough and available for what we need to do in the topography, geography, and the service demand that we operate here at RTA.
The reason
so
yeah, can I respond? I'm going to. My question was stemming, no one answered, as to the longevity, because I know there's different dates, anywhere from 2030, 2035, 2040, 2050. There's all these different dates that we're supposed to be in compliance with all this new green technology. And I just want to make sure that this isn't going to kind of put a wedge in and expend our valuable dollars when they're ultimately wanting us to go to electric or hydrogen. I don't know. So that was my intent for the question.
Right. No, it will not hurt a wedge. It actually complements that, and it enables us to get to that next phase a little bit quicker and a little bit smoother.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Larry. So any more questions from any director? Jerry? We can't hear you, Jerry. I don't know if you can hear me.
Oh, sorry. I unmuted myself. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Hopefully that's a little bit better.
Yes, a lot better.
Yeah, my question is simply with the reprogramming of the $12.3 million in PTI SEA funds, does that exhaust that funding source or funding bucket?
Director Sincich, good question. Yes, the PTMISCA program is over. This was the last year that RTA was apportioned funds, was 2015, this money that we're talking about right now. The rest of it is gone. It hasn't been directly replaced, but the state of good repair funding that we get now is kind of like a newer version of that, although not as much money. But yeah, this program is over.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Good questions. Andy, go ahead, Scott. Just unmute yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I like what we're doing to shift the money, since we'll be able to spend it in time and it's not wasted. Just a couple of, I guess they're almost procedural questions. I know rolling stock is an approved expenditure. I'm just worried about the resolution itself, and in terms of the corrective action plan, is that enough in the resolution to pass it, to be able to change from what it was originally planned to what it's going to be now?
Great question, Director Vinton. Yes, what we'll do is if this passes at the full board, then we would take the staff report resolution and the corrective action plan that will just describe basically the project that we've described in the staff report. And so they'll be able to see that the project was explained to the board and the board approved for us to move the money, so that will be sufficient. Yeah, this is actually their direction. They have all their forms on the website and tell you exactly how to move it if you need to.
Terrific. Thank you so much.
Thank you, staff. Thank you, Christy and Larry, for answering everybody's questions. Anybody else has any questions go ahead, Andy. Unmute yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And thank you for all the information. Mine was more of a curiosity question, because it seemed like there was 70 buses was an awful lot. And I didn't know how many buses we had in full action right now, and whether you felt that after the pandemic that we would go back to full utilization, or whether it'd be a while before we get our customer ridership base back. Maybe a little bit of insight on that. How many 40-footers are we using now? Because we have cut back a lot of our routes.
Yes, Director Melendez, thank you for that question. Peak times, we are down on the number of buses we're using, you're right. However, not as significantly down as we had thought, because of the sweepers that we are running to go and help with capacity issues on the 1, the 16, the 19. So we're still fairly close between that and then vehicles that go out routinely for maintenance. We do expect there to be some sort of time that it takes for us to get back our ridership and get back to needing all of our vehicles. However, even with factoring that in and projecting mileage based on the lower service levels, these 70 vehicles will actually still reach 500,000 or more miles, which is the useful life requirement, by December of 2024. And certainly the first 35 will meet it in time to spend this grant money. If the second 35 aren't putting miles on as quickly, then we could push out the second procurement if we're doing 2 phases, but the first one for sure we will meet.
Okay, all right. And I noticed that this grant also allows for transit or rapid transit. Has that something that was considered prior to putting all the money into the buses? Again, just a curiosity question.
At this point, we tried to look at what capital costs we have at this moment, not knowing exactly how we're going to recover. The Rapid Link is not running right now, and we have to look at if we're going to put that back first, I would think, before we would invest in any other rapid transit. But we're kind of waiting to see what happens this fall with the colleges and see how people come back before we can decide what exactly to put back out there. I'm hesitant to commit to putting any specific, enhanced service out until we see what the demand is to make sure we do it wisely.
Yeah, well, rapid transit could take a lot of different, I think, views. And again, I don't know if this money would allow that, but signal light synchronization, working cooperatively with different cities just to allow those buses to run a little bit faster during busier times of the day. I know we have them here in Riverside, but it seems like some of the other cities might benefit for something. Just a curiosity question, and whether that was something that was considered prior to focusing in on the CNG buses.
I don't know about signal prioritization being an allowable cost under this grant, but in my discussion with Caltrans, it's basically the direction is that we've had this funding for a long time. The program is over. The only people that, there's not a whole lot of agencies that have money left, and there's a high pressure to spend it and spend it quickly on something that will happen and will move. So we elected to do the buses. We can certainly look at other funding sources if you would like for transit signal priority. I know that we've had some talks with some of your cities about that, and we're certainly open to it.
All right.
I think before we get to the point where we start looking at back to those add-on or amenities that made the system run so smoothly, we need to get back to basics and just get the system back up and running and try and grow ridership. So that's something we'll consider in the future, but we're certainly not ready there. We're transporting 30% of the passengers we did pre-pandemic, so we need to rebuild ridership and get it back to a sustainable level, but we'll consider it in the future.
Yeah. Okay. Again, these are just curiosity questions. Thanks a lot. Thank you so much for the report.
Thank you, Andy, and thank you, staff. I have one quick question. These funds, we do have them right now in place, right? Ready to spend, or we have to apply for the grant, part of it?
We already have this money. It's in an interest-bearing account, so we just have to submit the resolution and the corrective action plan, and then Caltrans would give us a letter or email saying go ahead, and we can go ahead.
Thank you. Any more questions from directors? Seeing none, I would like to ask clerk if there's any questions from public.
I have not received anything in writing, and I do not see anyone on the line with their hand raised.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve?
Moreno Valley.
Moreno Valley, do I have a second?
Riverside.
Riverside. Are there any no's? Are there any abstentions? Here none, the motion has passed. Clerk, you provide voting outcome, if not anonymous, please.
Yep, the motion passed with a unanimous vote affirmative.
Great, I like that. Thank you. Next item, item 7, board member comments. Now is the time for directors to speak if you have any comments.
Yes, I do, Moreno Valley.
Gonna go with David. Go ahead, David.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say thank you to the staff, RTA, and all my colleagues out here. It's been a rough year for us, but it looks like it's getting down to the point where we're going to start opening up more restaurants. Hopefully, we will. Encouraging the residents to continue doing your distance, face mask, washing hands. But I do want to take this time to thank someone else, and that's Karen Spiegel, our supervisor, for getting some vaccine centers locations in Moreno Valley. I just want to say thank you, Karen, and thank the supervisors for that. We are overdue, and I just want to say thank you very much to the supervisors. And
Thank you, David. I'm going to move to Andy Melendez, please.
No, I had my hand up for the comment. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
All righty, Scott.
It was for the last item. Thank you, Chair.
All right, I'm gonna give opportunity to staff if you have any comments. Okay, here none. Let's move to Jerry. Are you awake, Jerry? He is. He was taking a break.
You're muted,
No
Director.
comments?
Oh, there I am. No, I don't have any comments. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, thank you. Jim?
Nothing from me, sir.
All right, Zach.
Nothing for me, Chair.
Okay. Charlie?
No, nothing for me. Thank you for asking.
All right. Okay. Thank you for all the
Karen?
comments. I just have, okay, I'm sorry. Hey, you disappear from me, Karen. You back. Go ahead.
I've been here. As much as I appreciate a compliment any day, I have to say, because I have the city of Corona sitting here, and we took the site from Corona to move to Moreno Valley, and Corona is my district. So I'm not going to allow you to hang me on this call. Just to explain that, how that works is that wasn't up to us. That was a shift in the staff, and that the site was moved to Norco. We were told it was happening. We all said what cities need to have it. Corona had it for a long time. What they did is they moved that staff to Moreno Valley, which closed the Corona site, but they opened a new site in Norco, which is more central in the district. So I just want everybody to understand is that as much as I'd like to take credit for that, David, I can't, because
Okay.
I may get my booty kicked. So
Well, the way it was presented to us, it's supervisors know.
well, we also recognize that the top cities, the largest cities, should have the opportunity. And Corona hosted the site for a couple of months, and Moreno Valley has not yet had a site. The next one in that I've been pushing for also is Harupa Valley, which is on the other end.
Yeah.
So in a way of getting at least one in our district, it went from Corona to Norco, which is closer to Harupa Valley and Eastvale in the meantime. So when vaccines become a larger quantity sent to our county, we'll be able to have additional sites. But until then, we have to rotate them around. And it's a challenge because we just aren't getting enough vaccines to cover our county.
I appreciate that. And I'm hoping that each city will have their own vaccine center at one time, where we don't have to be fighting among each other or arguing or whatever to get it in their cities. But I look forward to the day where we all able to have one, at least one or two in each city. So again, thank you to everybody involved.
But you may have the opportunity of having vaccines, because remember, we have 150 providers throughout Riverside County.
Mm-hmm.
So there may not be a county site, but there are many sites. Corona's got several sites for vaccines. And let me tell you, no site should be charging anybody a copay or an amount. They may ask for your insurance, but they are not, they're given those vaccines. So they are not to be charging you. So I just want to make sure everybody knows that. So there are provider sites in almost every city in our county. So there is an opportunity still within all the cities, just maybe not a big county one.
Thank you for that information.
If I may add to that with the vaccine, there are various websites. You can go on to vaccinefinder.org and ask for a site within 5 miles or within 10 miles, the same thing. That's how I did mine. So you could get one at the local CVS or the local Rite Aid or local doctor's office. So if you go onto a website called vaccinefinder.org, you will find a site close to your house if you can't get onto some of the local, some of the county sites. And it becomes a challenge sometimes, but it's called vaccinefinder.org.
Thank you. Thank you, Andy.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Andy, for that information. I will definitely pass that along. Karen, thank you very much. And David, thank you for your comments. I just want to have a one big accomplishment for staff presenting this agenda first to us, and then go to, we just approve it to pass it to the full board of directors. You guys are just on top and on time to order those buses before we can lose those funds or pass it back to whomever, federal government, but thank you very much for utilize the funds correctly and on time. Once again, thank you, Larry, and all your staff. Okay, with that, we're going to move to announcements. Speaking of Larry, do you have any announcements?
Mr. Chairman, just one announcement. I want to give a shout out to the Supervisor Spiegel, Chair of the Board of Directors, or Board of Supervisors. I also saw that the vaccination site was moving to Moreno Valley, and I don't want to get into the politics of where it should go based on logistics, but some of our essential frontline workers who are eligible to receive the vaccination have been able to get vaccinated or at least get appointments. And it seems like the number of vaccinations or the availability has gone up this week. So thank you, Supervisor, for making that happen. There are some people out here who are on the front lines, and it's truly appreciated. So for your leadership, we truly appreciate it. Thank you. And thanks to all the board for all of your leadership. You're all doing a great job out there doing what you're doing, so we all appreciate you. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my announcements. Thank you.
Thank you. And in behalf of myself too, I know I'm not within your district, but thank you very, very much. I know you guys are working in conjunction with other supervisors to get all vaccinated. In behalf of all of our citizens, thank you very much, Karen. Okay, next meeting is, next item is item number 9. The next meeting, Board of Administration Operations Committee is scheduled Wednesday, April 7th at 1 p.m. At this point in time, I would like to thank all of you to join this meeting in this rain. And the meeting has adjourned. March 3rd, 21, Board Administration Operations Committee meeting adjourned at 1:36. Once again, thank you very much, all directors, to be here. Just in time. Hey, somebody got a phone call there. Thank you.
David.
Thank you.